Today, I want to talk about the topic of the intermediate effect. If you've never heard about this, it will explain exactly why whenever you begin a new endeavor, it might be a little bit challenging in the beginning, but then you get a head of steam going. You start to feel good. You start to feel like you're on a path, and then all of a sudden, you almost feel like you've taken 2 or 3 steps back. You feel like you're getting worse. You feel like you're not getting better, but actually falling further behind. It's at this moment that most people quit. It's actually called the intermediate effect. I want to explain it today, how to push past it, know that it's coming, and what it all means. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cabral Concept. So good to have you here today, episode 2943 of the show. The show is dedicated to our mindset and motivation, making sure that we start the week off right. So let's dive right into the show. I found out about this not too long ago, but honestly, this is the story of most of our lives, right? So it's like whatever we begin anew, we experience this at one moment or another. It could happen with a class that you've taken in school. It absolutely happens with your overall health. It can happen in sports as well. So like in a good example in sports is that you're in Little League, you're playing baseball, you're doing really well, and then you turn 12 years old or so, and then you go up more to the majors, right? And the majors are a different level, and you're playing kids maybe 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, and you're like, whoa, me pitching the same way straight down the plate is not going to work anymore. Now I need to change up the speed of the pitch. Now I need to throw a curveball. Now I need to, not actually throw it down the plate, sometimes throw it outside that they're not going to be able to hit it. So it's literally you move to a different level and you realize that you're not as good as you thought you were. And that's not to be mean to yourself. It's actually just being self-aware and realizing that you're graduating, that you're not at the same spot, nor should you be on the same spot, even though you're on the right trajectory. Let me give you an example more in my field. So when we look at overall health, and even my own journey trying to get well from 17 years old on, and really 19 years old when I found out about natural health, is that in the beginning, so I tried to use herbs or I tried to use vitamins, I would do all these specific things, and I would actually start to feel better. And then all of a sudden I would relapse, I would feel worse, and I did not know why. I had no idea why. I felt better for a little while, and then I would feel worse. And I couldn't put it together. I had some knowledge, I had a basis of knowledge that got me to a certain area, but then it wasn't enough to take me all the way home. And the biggest thing, and this is really what I want to share with you, and you'll see this a lot online, and that's why no matter what it is. So let's say that you're looking to improve your career or finances or relationship or your health or body transformation. You know how someone is teaching and if you should follow them from the intermediate effect. So let me share that with you right now. So in the beginning, you know that you don't really know that much, so you're open to learning. Like that's the thing. But you can't study everything in the beginning. So in finance, finance is not my expertise, but let's say you study real estate investing, or you study stocks, or you study bonds, or you study venture capital, private equity. You study some way of improving your finances or going into finance, right? So it's like, well, in the beginning, let's say you study stocks. So as a beginner, you then say, as you actually move along and you learn a lot about stocks, let's say, and you're an expert in that, you actually then put down real estate, you put down private equity, you put down bonds, you put down all the other things, currencies, whatever it might be, because you're an expert in stocks. This is what you know how to do, and you're doing well in it. But what happens when stocks begin to plummet? Now, again, if you're into stocks, you might say, well, in the long term, they always go back up, et cetera. I get it. I understand that. But what I'm saying is this is that's not all the end all be all of all investing, right? So one thing about a lot, and now to go back to the health field, you see people that got well on a, let's just say, a raw diet. And now they recommend a raw diet to every single human being alive. This is the intermediate. So it's not even just called the intermediate effect. Remember, beginner, you're learning, you're open to anything. A friend of yours recommends the raw diet. You do the raw diet and you feel incredibly well. Fantastic. Doesn't work for everybody. Maybe it works for some people. So now you are getting benefits of the raw diet and you're saying all these things about lab testing, functional medicine, hormones, gut health, etc. All you need is a raw diet. That's all that you need, right? That's the intermediate effect. They take away all other possibilities and just say everything can be cured with just the raw diet. You know that the person teaching right there, although smart and will help a lot of people, they're preaching from what they know. So it's what we call relevancy in your frame of reference rather than a total scope of knowledge. And I'll explain how we get there in a moment. So what happens is when you're saying that the raw diet is the end all be all, I'm just using raw diet for an example. I mean, you could insert literally people who believe, you should only be drinking raw milk, or you should be never using vitamins and minerals, but yes, you should use adaptogens and herbs, or that you should never include any grains in your diet, or even vegetables or fruits or anything, and only meat. So wherever you're coming from, you're looking at it from one frame of reference, and that could potentially help someone for at least a period of time, but certainly not great for the entire world, without a doubt, right? And so that person is an intermediate, and we're all there. We're all there without a doubt. I can tell you back in my early 20s, personal training, nutrition, body transformation, here's what I knew. I knew how to help people transform their body through a specific nutrition plan that we use that basically it was paleo before paleo was a thing. How did I learn it? I learned it in the natural bodybuilding realm of this is what people did to get lean. Oh, great. I used it in my practice. It worked incredibly well. I continued to fine tune it, those types of things. And then I used metabolic conditioning workouts. Again, I wasn't the person who came up with those, but metabolic conditioning workouts wasn't really a thing back then. But here's what we did. We did 2 trisets and we moved people through these workouts, and it worked incredibly well. And that's what I talked about, and that's what I did, and you were going to follow it. And that's the intermediate, right? I was an expert in that thing, and it worked really well for a good amount of people, but an intermediate in the space of overall body transformation, because I was not able to help the people with the low thyroid, the adrenal-based issues, the gut health-based issues, because I wasn't doing anything about those things. It was not within my wheelhouse. I was an intermediate, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because as long as you're willing to keep an open mind, you can then ascend to the next level. But what it looks like on a curve, and if you're watching this on video, you can kind of see me trace it out. But basically, what happens is you start as a beginner and you get a little bit of a bump. You actually get improvement in whatever diet you follow, whatever exercise you follow, whatever it might be. And then after a while, you actually sink down below baseline. And the reason is that you go all in one direction, and you're really focused on a very narrow area, which oftentimes creates deficiencies in other areas. And you stay low. You actually go worse. If you're an entrepreneur and you only do everything that you've always learned and always done, most likely you're going to fail eventually. And the reason is that it gets you to a certain level, but then you encounter other things in the economy and world around you, and you have to be able to grow and adapt. But if you stay in intermediate, you actually dip below baseline and can get worse. It's why many people who try the same diets over and over actually gain more weight from their baseline in the long run, meaning they continue to yo-yo up and down, and they actually hurt their metabolism, because they continue to focus on what they've always known, and they continue to get the results they've always gotten and continue to relapse. I did that with my health for 10 years. So I get it. I understand. And that's why I'm not talking negatively or condescending or down to anyone, because I've been there. And then what happened was this. If you keep an open mind, and usually that's just out of utter frustration, literally, I then keep my mind open. I continue to read books, and the books are always my kind of, saving grace to just keep hope alive, just keep hope alive, suspend disbelief. And so I read a book, contacted that author, and as I say, the rest is history, right? And so my mentor, Dr. Pete, took me now from an intermediate to more of an expert. And what I was willing to do was learn, keep an open mind, try new things. But this time, I did it based on someone else's experience and not mine. And I want to stress that. If you have to learn everything yourself, it is going to take a lifetime to get a couple things right. But if you can learn from others' experience, don't learn from the intermediate, because you can only learn as much as the intermediate. That's why as a beginner, you can learn from the intermediate. But if you then consider that the end all be all, well, now you're miss out. You actually dip below baseline. So if you then begin to learn from an expert, and usually an expert, I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it, but usually an expert has their 10,000 hours. They really have at least 5 to 10 years in a field of focus. And that's the minimum. So Dr. Pete, when I met her, she was in her later 60s, and she had 40 years, experience. And she had just seen it all, done it all. And the expert sees things from a point of simplicity. And they don't even talk negatively about the only consume this diet or the only consume these vitamins. They're like, no, yes, that works for some people, that works for those people. But in the end, you need a total program, not just one thing. There's no silver bullet. An expert knows that there's no silver bullet. There's a plan, there's a blueprint, there's a foundational protocol, and then you bio-individualize that for each person. And so what Dr. Pete did was say, I'm going to run these labs. We're going to reassess your gut health, your hormones, like all the different things, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to put you on a foundational plan. You have a lot of autoimmune issues. You've got a lot of inflammation. You need specific B vitamins. Okay, you need zinc, all of these different things. You're low in magnesium, and that's bio-individualized for me. But then she didn't stop there. It wasn't just about diet and supplementation. She said, and you need to re-regulate your autonomic nervous system, your stress. I know you've been working on it. That's what she said to me. She said, she would always say it in the most unassuming and gentle way. And I think that's why I was able to take her advice, a lot more, is I didn't try to fight against it. I was not going to, push back too hard against a 4'11", 5 foot tall, maybe 100-pound, 68-year-old woman who was just here to help me, right? No agenda. And so I was like, all right, well, we're going to give this a shot. I liked her book. I liked her knowledge. She studied directly under Dr. Vasant Lad in Ayurveda and all these great things. I listened. I began to work on my stress, my overall autonomic nervous system, combine that with everything else. And what happened? I began to heal. And so as I began to heal, I said, all right, what else was I missing? It opened me up to even more. I didn't go back to the intermediate effect of saying, oh, this is the only way. I just think everybody should take magnesium. Everybody should take zinc. Okay, it's well, maybe some people need it. But now I know how to find out if they need it or not, right? And so what I did is I said, okay, if I didn't know this, what else don't I know? I've been studying this for 10 years and I didn't know all this. What else do I need to keep my mind open to? And so luckily, with a little push from her, I went back to school. I got my degree, but it wasn't enough. I said, I want to make sure that I begin to do my internships overseas and actually keep a just really open mind and say, what is this about Ayurvedic medicine? What is this about traditional Chinese medicine? What about bioregulatory medicine over in Europe? What about functional medicine here in the US and microscopy? Why don't I study that? Why don't I look at that? Maybe I'm not going to go all in on it, but why didn't I know about it? And so I learned a lot, and that was helpful. But here's where an expert really begins to own that, is that they get experience because they put everything they've learned into practice. And you learn that even with the best plan and even with the precise lab results, you still have to engage in what's a little bit like a ping pong, match, or maybe we'll call it pickleball. And it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because you try something, you see how the patient or wellness client reacts, you make adjustments, you learn from that. You as the practitioner learn from it as well. I was doing the CBO protocol for gut rebalancing back in 2010, right? But what happened was this: it didn't become the CBO protocol that people know today until about 2016, 2017. And that was 5 to 6 years of working with tens of thousands of people on gut health just for the CBO protocol that I was able to do that. And so what I share with people right now is that I'll never be the expert in a million different things, nor do I choose to do that or want to do that, nor is that really possible, because it would take you away from whatever your passion or your purpose really is. But what I want to do is I want you to make sure that whatever you're looking for online, whatever you're searching out, anytime someone is all in on one thing, especially if it's fringe, it is most likely they're experiencing being an intermediate in that thing. And I'm not trying to speak negatively about them, because again, whenever I find myself all in on this one thing and it's a little fringe, I'm like, there I am, right? There I am, an intermediate in this subject. What else am I missing? So regardless of kind of how we view people, because I don't want to put that in a negative light, I want us to say, what else could I be missing? What should I be looking at right now that I'm not? How can I reframe this to take in more? Who has a contradictory thought that I may want to weigh in as well? And when we do that, we immediately begin to rise out of being an intermediate, that intermediate effect, and we start to move closer to becoming an expert in any area of our life. So hopefully today's show was helpful. Would love to hear from you in the comments. I love being able to go into psychology and really the mindset and performance of optimizing every area of your life. Find the best coach in your space, listen to them, take their course, read their books, whatever it is, and begin to dissect their foundational protocol, their blueprints, their methodology that you can then begin to implement in your life. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Do feel free to share the show with anyone you believe it could serve. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.